You think HOA Karens are bad? Imagine catching one mid-break-in, only for her to call the cops on you. Sounds insane, right? But when the officer showed up and saw my wife step forward, everything froze, because she wasn't just my wife. She was the commander, and karma saluted. It always looked perfect from the outside. Rows of freshly cut lawns, matching mailboxes, and neighbors who waved politely while watering their flower beds. The kind of neighborhood where nothing dramatic should ever happen. At least, that's what I thought when my wife and I first moved in. But beneath that polished surface, there was an unspoken rule everyone knew. The HOA president, Karen, controlled everything. From the color of your shutters to how often you power washed your driveway, she had an opinion, and usually the power to back it up. Some people tiptoed around her, others tried to stay invisible.
No, this is not happening.
I thought ignoring her would keep me safe. Couldn't have been more wrong.
Ma'am, you need to calm down.
It started small side comments about how my grass was a little too long, or how my recycling bin didn't face the right direction. Annoying, sure, but nothing worth fighting over. Or so I thought. What I didn't realize then was that Karen wasn't just nitpicking. She was watching, waiting, and collecting reasons to interfere in my life. And when my wife left for deployment, I unknowingly became her prime target. That peaceful neighborhood I once admired, it was about to become a battlefield. When my wife deployed, Karen appeared on my doorstep like clockwork. She brought a tray of cookies, flashing that perfectly practiced suburban smile. "Military families deserve extra support," she said warmly. And at first I wanted to believe her, but her questions were strange. She asked how long my wife would be gone, whether we planned to stay in the house long-term, and even hinted at how much we still owed on our mortgage. I laughed it off, thinking maybe she was just nosy, but something about the way she leaned forward, almost taking mental notes, made me uneasy. She offered to help with paperwork, explained she had connections with contractors, and bragged about how she could make navigating HOA rules a breeze. At the time, I chalked it up to a pushy personality. But the truth was, Karen was laying a trap. Each visit was the same pattern. Sweetness on the surface, but layered with probing questions and hidden motives. She positioned herself as the helpful neighbor, the knowledgeable guide, the one person I should trust in the neighborhood. And slowly, I let my guard down. Looking back, I wish I had seen the warning signs. Because what Karen really wanted wasn't to help, it was to control. And soon, I'd find out just how far she was willing to go. The first real alarm bell came one Saturday afternoon. I stepped into my backyard and froze. There was Karen, crouched near the foundation, tape measure in hand, snapping photos like she was preparing a court case. When I confronted her, she didn't even flinch. "Just routine compliance inspection," she said, waving me off like I was overreacting. But this wasn't an HOA checklist. This was a full-scale property survey. She had binders, diagrams, and even laser equipment. I asked her why she needed that much detail. She smiled thinly and replied, "We like to keep records updated. Helps maintain property values." Her answer was too smooth, too prepared. And when I glanced at her car, I noticed dealership plates from a real estate firm. That night, the unease gnawed at me. Why would the HOA president need detailed structural photos of my home? Why would she care about foundation depth or roofline angles? The following week, she accidentally left behind a folder during one of her surprise visits. Inside were tax assessments, comps, and notes about development potential. It was no compliance record, it was a portfolio. I should have acted then. But I told myself I was imagining things. After all, who suspects their neighbor of plotting something bigger? That denial would cost me. Because Karen wasn't just interested in my property. She was planning to take it. Weeks later, the notices started coming. Brightly stamped envelopes labeled violation. At first, it was laughable, claims that my shutters weren't the right shade, that my fence was 2 inches too high. But the costs, astronomical. Thousands of dollars in required updates. The kind of expenses that could break a family already stretched thin. Each time I confronted Karen, she doubled down. "It's regulation," she said firmly. "We all have to comply." Then, like clockwork, her friend Marcus would appear. He claimed he had gone through the same process recently and praised Karen for helping him navigate
not happening.
it. Felt rehearsed like a script. And yet, with my wife gone and the stress piling up, I started doubting myself.
No, this is not happening.
Maybe this was just the cost of living here. Maybe Karen was right. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't about community standards. It was about pressure, financial, emotional, relentless pressure. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by violation letters, I heard Karen's voice drifting through the open window. She was on the phone, saying words that sent a chill down my spine. Proceed with vulnerability assessment. That wasn't HOA talk. That was predatory. And in that moment, I realized Karen wasn't going to stop. She was escalating. And soon, she'd cross a line she could never come back from. It happened on a Tuesday. I came home from work, groceries in hand, only to notice the side gate ajar. My stomach dropped. I stepped quietly around the corner, and there she was, Karen. Inside my backyard, tools scattered, flashlight in hand. She wasn't inspecting. She was staging. I watched as she wedged expandable foam into a crack in the foundation, muttering about safety hazards. Nearby were fake inspection papers, already filled out with citations. Karen, I snapped. She jerked upright, eyes wide for a split second, before twisting her face into righteous indignation. You can't be here, she shouted. This is an emergency inspection. Your house is dangerous. Couldn't believe it. She was trespassing on my property, fabricating evidence, and yet she was acting like I was the criminal. Before I could even process it, she whipped out her phone and dialed 911. Help! She cried into the receiver. The homeowner's threatening me. He's violent. He's hiding dangerous damage to the neighborhood. I stood frozen, rage and disbelief boiling inside me. She had broken into my home, planted fake hazards, and now she was calling the cops on me? And then I heard it, the distant wail of sirens. In that moment, I realized just how far Karen was willing to go. She wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was willing to destroy me to get what she wanted. The patrol car pulled up fast, lights flashing. A young officer stepped out, looking more bewildered than alarmed. Karen rushed forward, tears streaming down her face on command. Officer, thank God you're here, she cried. He attacked me while I was trying to document safety violations. Look at the cracks, the wires. It's dangerous. She gestured wildly at the evidence she'd planted. To my horror, it looked convincing. Foam bulged like a structural flaw. Wires hung loose where she'd tampered. I tried to explain, but the officer's eyes darted between her frantic performance and my defensive tone. Karen had rehearsed this. She knew how to play the victim, how to weaponize authority. For a terrifying moment, I thought it was working. The officer's hand hovered near his radio, ready to escalate. And then, just as my heart sank, I heard the sound of the front door opening. She wasn't supposed to be home for another week. But there she was, my wife, walking through the doorway, duffel bag slung over her shoulder, calm as ever. Karen's eyes lit up. Perfect, she hissed. Another witness to his violence. But my wife didn't rush. She scanned the scene with sharp precision, eyes flicking from the officer to the fake damage to Karen's crocodile tears. The officer glanced at her, polite but tense, and then he froze, his gaze locked on the insignia embroidered on her uniform. For the first time that night, the power shifted. Karen kept rambling, painting herself as the hero, but no one was listening anymore. My wife stepped forward, her voice steady, commanding without trying.
Ma'am, you need to calm down.
What's happening here? The young man straightened instinctively.
This is not happening.
His entire demeanor changed. Gone was the casual civilian posture. In its place, military respect.
No, this is not happening.
Karen didn't notice. She was too busy selling her performance.
Ma'am, you need to calm down.
But I saw it. The officer's recognition.
No, this is not happening.
The sudden snap of authority. He wasn't just looking at my wife.
Ma'am, you need to calm down.
He was looking at his commander. Ma'am, the officer said, his voice tight with respect. I didn't realize. Karen faltered. Realize what? She's just. But the truth dawned as she caught sight of the insignia. Her smug smile dissolved into something I'd never seen before on her face. Fear. My wife didn't shout. She didn't need to. She calmly laid out what had happened, piecing together the planted evidence, the false accusations, and Karen's trespassing. The officer nodded along, no longer skeptical but deferential. He called in backup immediately, his tone crisp, professional. Karen sputtered, tried to argue, but it was too late. Her audience had changed. The officer wasn't seeing her as a victim anymore. He was seeing her as a criminal. The shift was electric. For months, Karen had controlled the narrative. But in that moment, standing before a commander, she lost every ounce of power. Within minutes, more units arrived. Evidence was secured, statements taken. Karen was placed in handcuffs, still protesting, still insisting she was the victim. But her voice cracked now, desperation bleeding through the arrogance. Neighbors poured onto porches,
No, this is not
whispering
happening.
as they watched their HOA president,
Ma'am,
once
you need to
untouchable,
calm down.
led away under flashing lights. The truth
No, this
spread
is not
quickly.
happening.
Those violation letters, exposed as
Ma'am, you need to calm
fraudulent.
down.
The inspections, illegal. And
No, this
Karen's
is not
reign of
happening.
control collapsed overnight. The same
Ma'am,
people who once
ma'am, you need
feared
to
her
calm
now
down.
saw her for what she really was. A predator hiding behind authority. In the days that followed, peace returned to the neighborhood. But it wasn't the same peace as before. This time, it was real, free from Karen's grip. I learned something important through it all. Bullies thrive on fear and silence. But when faced with true authority, their power crumbles. Karen thought she could manipulate the system, twist the rules, and ruin my family. What she didn't count on was that my wife wasn't just another neighbor. She was the commander. And in the end, karma didn't just knock on her door. It saluted. So if you've ever dealt with a Karen who thought they were untouchable, remember this. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment of truth to flip the script.